Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm so thrilled that you could take time out of your day to join us and take a look at the latest features that we just released. As most of you know, we released our latest run yesterday, and this particular release is very exciting to me because um, basically every single feature that we released is a result of um, your requests and suggestions. So a lot of these features should make many of you very happy. And it's really exciting because we're able to give back and show you how we really value your feedback. So without further ado, let's get in here. So we're going to go through, like I always do, our life-changing features, and then we'll go through the productivity and reporting features, so things that we're doing to help increase productivity and enhance reporting. And then I always like to show some of the defects that were resolved with this release because we understand that you guys take time out of your day to highlight certain defects that you may come across, and we do take that feedback very we do take that feedback very important highly. So we do our best to resolve as many as we can, and I like to highlight some of them for you during this time. And then also a fun part, I get to show you a sneak peek into the next release. And so what some of you may not realize is, although we've just released quite a few features this week, we're already working on what's coming down the pipe and what's coming in next. So we're constantly working, we're constantly trying to update and get those features out to you. So I love that part in being able to show that and showcase what we're working on currently. So let's get into the life-changing features. The first one I'm incredibly proud to showcase to you guys today. It's something that we have heard from numerous clients over and over again, something I've personally vouched for over and over again. And it's the ability to revise or edit AP invoices, even though they've been posted and paid. So this one, what we've done is we've added a new button on the posted AP screen called Revise. And when you hit that button, it kicks open a new screen, brand new screen that's called Revise AP. The screen looks exactly like a pending or a new AP invoice screen where everything is editable except for the vendor. And so we also recognize that there are some accounting restrictions that we needed, controls that we needed to make sure are adhered to. So if you have an invoice, say for $100, you have the ability to increase the value of that invoice, but you cannot decrease the value of that invoice. If there's been a payment against it, I should say. And if you are changing the amount, if there is an approval workflow in place, that invoice, must go through the workflow approval process. If you are making a slight change and you have the ability to post, you could just go ahead and post it. And so this feature is too exciting to not show you it live in Premiere. So let me hop over to Premiere itself. So a couple of things came to our attention when speaking with clients regarding the ability to edit. So previously you had the capability to change transaction date. We kept that just for quick ability to just alter that date. But we used to be able to, we allowed you to change the distribution. And so some of the suggestions that came from that is, being able to add lines, being able to alter the amount per line. So maybe if you had an invoice that was spent 3 lines and you had $100 on each line, but maybe that distribution of $100 per line wasn't correct. The invoice might be $300, but maybe $50 needed to go to line 1. So we heard all of that and we understood. The other major enhancement with respect to the revise is the ability to add a subcontract or a PO commitment to the invoice. So there's been many occasions where clients have inadvertently posted an AP invoice whereby they should have attached a subcontract or a PO, and they forgot to do so, or maybe the commitment hadn't been created as yet. And so with this new revise function, you have the ability to do both of those scenarios, among others. So all I'm going to do here now is hit revise on the posted AP invoice screen, and you'll see it opens a new screen called the Revise AP Invoice screen. And now everything, as you can see, is editable. So I can change anything that I need to. I can go ahead and add lines if I want to. I could delete a line. I can alter my discount. So perhaps this discount is in error and we do not want any discounts. I can alter that. In this particular scenario, what I wanted to bring to your attention before I hit revise and forgot is that this particular invoice is paid. So if I look at the payments tab here, you'll see that we've paid $9,995 on this particular invoice. So the additional thing that we've done here is once you've revised an invoice, if there's a payment associated to that invoice, we take that payment and we attach it to the new invoice. So you're not losing any of that. You don't need to worry about canceling the payment and redoing the invoice and redoing the payment. We do all of that seamlessly for you now. So I'm in the revise now. I'm going to go ahead and select my subcontract that I forgot to assign. So I'm going to select that here. And you'll notice that the lines change based on the distribution of the subcontract, which is what it should be doing. So now I can go ahead and enter in my new value. So perhaps instead of 10,000, it actually should have been 20,000. So let's increase this to 20,000. And then I'm going to go ahead and if I did not have the ability to post, I would just send for approval. In this case, I do have the ability, so we're going to go ahead and post that. Once we post it, we're going to get this audit report. The audit report is going to show us that we now have a $20,000 committed actual. In the back end, what you don't see is that we reversed the $10,000 uncommitted actual, and now we've got the $20,000 committed. And if we jump back to the posted AP and I refresh my screen, the app one now becomes app one with a hyphen revision one or revise one. And you'll notice the payment is still there, $9,995. The status is now outstanding because we've increased the value of the invoice to 20,000, so it's no longer paid. And the new distribution is there for me. So any documents that I would have originally associated with the invoice will also get brought over. So you don't lose any of that. Any previous approval logs, all of that will remain intact. Only the changes that you made are updated to the particular invoice. So it's pretty remarkable. I know a lot of you have some questions, and so I'm going to get to those afterwards at the end. The next thing that we did, again, this was from a couple of clients, something that was highly requested. The challenge we had with approvals was if somebody was to go on vacation, the only way that we were able to handle that is if we went in and adjusted the workflow and kind of rerouted for approvals. So we've got a lot of invoices floating around out there, and to do that for every invoice is a pain. So what we did was we created this feature called delegate approvals. And what this meant was, whether you yourself decided you were going to delegate your approving to John or Bob, or if the administrator decided who you should be delegating your approvals to, we made it so that either person could create the list of delegates. And if you chose, let's say, John to be a delegate for your approvals, when John logs in, he goes to the AP and approve AP invoices screen, he'll be able to see all of, let's say, my AP invoices to approve, and then he can approve on my behalf. So I'm just going to jump back into Premier. Let's close down these screens and let me just show you where you can set your delegates. So we're going to open the users screen, and we're also going to open the user preference screen. So if it's user preference, that means I'm deciding who I want my delegates to be. And now you'll see there's a new tab under user preferences called delegate approvals, or delegate, I keep saying it wrong. And so here I can add as many people as I want to be my backup. I can also select which workflow it applies to, and I can put in a start and an end date. So if I only want this person to be approving on my behalf for the week that I'm out of office, I can select that. If I would prefer that those backup approvers be there constantly year round, I can reflect that too in the start and the end date. Alternatively, if I jump over to the users tab, and I go to my particular user, the administrator on my account can also go to a new tab on the user screen called Delegate Approvals, and they can add backup approvers. So let's say I went on vacation and I forgot to set my delegate, and now there's an AP invoice that needs to get approved and it's already been routed to me. The administrator at my company can come into the user screen and they can add whoever backup approver they wish. So now, if I jump into John's login, so this is, I'm now in John's login, and I open the AP, the approve AP invoice screen, you'll notice that the assigned to me, as in assigned to John, sorry, approve AP invoices is blank. But if I click on this drop down and I select Aisha, here are the invoices awaiting my approval that John can now approve on my behalf. Now, if there are a number of project managers that have chosen John as their delegate, when John clicks on this drop down menu, he will see all of the people for whom he is a backup for, and he can go ahead and approve on their behalf. The other thing that we introduced this release is a revise and resubmit electronic signatures. And so this amazing, powerful feature allowed subcontractors or whoever you sent your subcontracts or change orders for approval or review or signature to, they basically had two options. They could approve or they could deny. And this was somewhat of an issue because sometimes you don't want to decline the subcontractor change order. You simply need to adjust it a little bit. And so there was a little bit of confusion as to, do we approve with a comment or do we reject with a comment? And so we've introduced a new option, a request revision. And so what this means is, if a subcontractor receives a subcontract that they feel they need to alter a little bit, they can alter the subcontract on their own, enter it a comment, and hit it with a request revision. And the subcontract will then be rerouted back to the person who initially created that subcontract, lets them know that there's a revision request, gives them the opportunity to update the subcontract, and then reroute for workflow again. So let me just show you real quick how this works. So if I'm going to go to my signature status screen, the one thing you'll notice that now we've got a new status in here called revise and resubmit. So for now, let's go to what's in progress and assigned to me, and we'll go ahead and select well, the only one that's available, and we're going to go ahead and approve and sign. So this is the portal now that the recipient will see. And now what we're going to do is we're going to download the change order. This one's a change order. We're going to open it up, and we're just going to mark it up as needed. So we're going to say, you know what, this shouldn't be $55,000. I need a lot more money. So I'm going to just use my PDF here And I'm going to cross this out. And let's put in the new dollar value, 6,500. And you know what? This new stove looks correct. Everything else is good. So now I'm going to go ahead and save this as my new change order. Use this folder. And then I'm going to go back to my screen here, and I'm going to hit request revision. Now I'm going to say need more money, and I'm going to attach the new change order that I just marked up. And I'm going to send it in. And so now that I've sent it in, when I come back into Premier, I can go ahead and take a look at my revise and resubmit. And I can see that the change order that I just altered is here with a revise and resubmit request. I can view the details, which will open up the actual change order screen for me to make my changes to. But I can also look at the approval log, and I can see that it was sent. There was a request revision, change amount. Then it was revised. Now I need more money. And you can see here are the files that were uploaded with the revision request. So now I can open up that same document and take a look at what was there. So really, really fantastic feature, really to enhance the electronic signatures and make it even more usable for your internal and external users. Here's my email that I received for my revise and resubmit. Sorry about that. So the next big thing that we added is drill down capabilities. And so this is something that you're going to see more and more. We started this initiative a few years back where we really wanted to increase the drill down capability throughout the software. And in the last release, I got to show you the exciting drill down capabilities in the financial statements. And now we're taking it a step further and we're making those PMs happy with the ability to have the drill down capability on the job forecast screen. So now on the purchase order, the subcontracts, and the actual tabs on that job forecast, under the reference, you'll see a blue hyperlinked document identification. And when you click on that, for example, in this screen, it's an actual cost. And the actual cost, when you click on it, will open up the invoice inquiry. So if you've got a PM that's curious about the actual cost and is looking at this and there's $10,000 and they want to know, has this vendor been paid? They need to verify if the work is done before it's paid, and they want to check on the status of it. Well, now when they click on that application number 1 there, or whatever the reference number might be, they have the ability to view on the invoice inquiry the status of that actual cost. So previously they'd have to look at the reference number and then they'd have to go to the invoice inquiry or the vendor inquiry and find it themselves, but we made it extremely easy to locate and find out information right at the PM's fingertips. So this is one to definitely make your PMs happy. But what this really has done is taken this really powerful screen, the job forecast screen, and turned it not only into a forecasting tool, but into an everything tool. So just an overall review and investigative tool so that you can actually see what's going on the individual cost item lines of your job. So let's move on to the productivity and reporting features now. The first thing I'll talk about here is the RFI mailing default mailing list. So this is a really awesome feature, again, requested by a client who brought it to our attention that, if we're creating RFIs for a particular job, typically you are emailing out to the same group of people over and over again. So every time you're creating an RFI, you have to go in and enter in those carbon copy contacts and remember who it is you need to send the RFI to could be a bit cumbersome. So we decided under the project defaults screen to give you the ability per job to set a list of of recipients for the RFI. So the first thing we did was we're allowing you to select a form, right? So if your RFI forms need to change per job, you can do that here. You can identify what RFI form should be associated with that particular job. If the from is always John Smith from ABC Company, you can put that in. It'll default for you. And then if you're always, the to is always going to be the ABC group, and then your carbon copies are ABC landlords, and you can add as many CCs as you would like. Then every time you open up and you create an RFI, the defaults will fill in. And you can add and delete and alter as needed when you're sending out that RFI, but the defaults are there for you. This is another really cool feature, again, requested by a client. So if you can see here on the right-hand side, this weather information will now automatically pull in based on the address of your job. So it's pretty cool. This is what my world looked like yesterday, 8.6 degrees Celsius, because I put in the job address of my home. And it's really a neat feature because not only will it automatically display the weather for you based on the date and based on the address of your job, but it will also allow you, as long as the form field is in that form, allow you to go ahead and print those daily job logs up to 365 days in the past and obtain the weather updates for all of those days. Celsius versus Fahrenheit options are also dependent on the address. So if your job address resides in the States, you will see this information in Fahrenheit. And if it's Canada or Australia, you'll see it in Celsius. So this is another good one, discontinue and auto-replace forms. So we've always had the ability to discontinue forms. However, we ran into an issue where we would stop you from being able to discontinue or inactivate a form if it was being used elsewhere. So if it was being used even in an inactive company, the system would recognize it as being used and it would not let you discontinue the form. And so this is a really handy tool to have to be able to discontinue your forms and keep your form list clean, avoid your users selecting an incorrect form. And so what we did was, the reason that we were disallowing the discontinuation or the inactive forms was because we didn't know what to put in its place. And so what we did is we said, okay, well, why don't we just create a feature whereby if a user needs to discontinue a form, they can select what to replace it with. So many of you will probably be doing this for your daily job logs. Maybe you'll take this opportunity to completely redo your daily job log form and include the weather on it. And if and when you do that, you'll come to the discontinue form. You'll discontinue your daily job log form and replace it with the new one that includes the weather. So another thing that we heard from you was that some of you have a different form per job or even per change order type. So for example, if you've got a specific change order for kitchen related issues and a separate one for bathroom related issues, then previously you'd have to go to the job subledger and update your form company-wide just to print the change order that required a different form. So now you no longer have to do that. Now you can have a standard change order form that pulls from the job subledger, and when you need to update the form based on the change order you're currently creating, at the bottom underneath where you add the lines for your change order, you will see a new drop down or a new field called form, and you have the ability to override the default form with the new change order form that you wish to have for this particular change order. So that was a really good one too. Linking the subcontract change order to the change order once the subcontract change order has already been posted was a big one. So we heard from you, and we now recognize that many of you had to create your subcontract change orders prior to creating your change orders, maybe because you knew the work had to go out, but you didn't know how much you were going to charge your client. Or maybe some people simply just forgot and went straight to the subcontract change order because you just needed the work to start. And so we've always had this field job change order number, but what we did is we added an edit here. And if you click on edit, what we will do is we'll filter out all change orders that have an associated subcontract change order. And so all of the change orders where there's no link created will then be there for you to choose from. And you have the ability to associate your SCO with your customer change order or your job change order. And so we still highly recommend that you start with the change order and attach the subcontract and have the system auto create the subcontract change order for you, because that's less work for you. But if you've already gone through the lengths of creating that sub CO, then this is definitely a viable option for you to then link the two together. So here's something that we've done. We have been trying to increase the ability to move between, increase the ease of use of being able to move between screens within Premier. And you would have seen this with the payment screens a year ago now, where we tried to integrate a lot of those screens together. For example, if you're on a new payment run and you've posted a payment run, the next logical step is to actually create that payment. And so what we did was we included a button in the new payment screen that would take you to the actual payment screen to complete the process. And so we recognize that if you're sitting on the subcontract screen and you need to either create a sub CO and you're just here to find out information about the core or the original subcontract, well, let's make it easier for you to go and get to the subcontract change order screen. Or maybe you see the commitment at $10,000 and you see that there's approved change orders for 100 and you really want to see what that is. So now you just need to go into more actions under the subcontract screen and hit view subcontracts, and you'll be able to see the sub COs associated. And what we do is we filter out all of the other sub COs and we only show you the relevant change orders for the vendor that you were currently looking at. Another upgrade to the electronic signatures is we now allow up to 15 approvers. So with the ability to include internal and external participants to either review or sign off on either a subcontract or a change order, we thought 5 would have been enough. Turns out you guys need a lot more people involved in signing up on these particular documents. And so we've increased the number now to 15. So hopefully that is an abundance of approvers and reviewers, and that will suffice for the time being at least. We've got some OData updates. So we've got daily subcontractors log report. This is a new OData report that we've released. And so what this is if you're taking the time to record, the hours that the subcontractors are on site on your daily job log report, we previously didn't have a way for you to pull a report to see what the total hours are for a given week or a given month. And some of our clients needed that information so that they could compare that to the invoices they were receiving from the subcontractors, so that they could verify and ensure that they're being billed for the right number of hours. So that report is new and available. For those of you who maybe missed our OData webinar this past week, I would highly suggest taking a look at that recording and see just how you can make use of OData reporting. The other thing that we did is added the ability to view voided invoices on the AR posted invoices OData report. So we've got some form updates also. We now have given the ability to add AP invoice memo to the T&M billing application. We've also added the AP invoice date. So AP invoice memo, if you if you have taken the time to enter in a memo on the AP invoice screen, we had already included that memo on the TNM application, but we didn't have a form field to allow you to print it. So that's there now if you wanted to include it. And same with AP invoice date. We previously had the transaction date, but we now are also providing the AP invoice date. We're also including the CO change order status as a form field for your change orders. So you have the ability to view, you know, whether the change order has been approved or revised, etc. So some fine tuning that we've done with respect to some of our reports. We have improved significantly the quarterly reporting from a financial statement perspective. So you now have the ability to compare quarter to quarter, this year versus prior year. You can show up to 8 quarters together that can span over 2 years. And I think you'll find this extremely helpful. So you can look at 4 quarters for the year. You can look at 2 quarters. The variations are endless. We've also included the job name to a number of reports on request of quite a few of our clients. AP and AR aging now both show the job name, and the AR invoice registry also shows the job name. We've also added the job number to the AR cash receipts report. We found that there's quite a divide between clients who rely on the job number and the clients who rely on the job name. And so in an effort to make everybody happy, we've included both on these reports. The other thing we did is on the job cost progress by cost item report, we've added a subtotal for cost item groups. So previously, we have listed everything by cost item, but there were no subtotals. So to help clean up the report a little bit, you'll now see all of your cost items are grouped by the cost item grouping, and you'll see a subtotal for that. So some of the defects that we resolved this time around is the first one is validating a deleted line. So previously, if you were, say, adding a new AP invoice and you added 2 lines and you realized you only needed 1, so you deleted the second line and then you tried to save and post it, you'd get hit with an error because we were remembering that second line and it was incomplete. And so we've taken that out, so that should no longer be an issue for you. The other thing we did is if you're using the add from option on the AP invoice screen, when you added the invoice from template, the invoice line description would automatically fill in based on the template, but we would ask you to enter an invoice number. And when you entered the invoice number, we would at that point delete the invoice line description, allowing you to create a new one. And so we realized that doesn't work very well. And so we will now keep the invoice line description intact even after entering the invoice number. On the subcontract screen, we were showing inactive vendors, and we've taken those out now, so that list should be cleaned up for you. And this last one particularly hit my team too, so they appreciate this one. The open button on the Document Explorer screen used to download instead of open, so there was no real distinction between download and open. So now the open button opens and the download button downloads. Okay, this is the fun stuff. So sneak peek into the next release. So I know the last time I did the sneak peek, I spoke to you about the mobile app coming out, and we had every intention of releasing the mobile app, but we took a step back and we wanted to enhance the features a bit more. So we decided to take 2 releases to build it out really well instead. So in addition to the mobile app that you are going to see come out, we're also introducing the time entry approval workflow. So we recognize that there is a need that if your guys are entering in time, instead of relying on the administrator to go to the enter time and expense screen, print the timesheet report, and then email that off to whoever needed to review it, and then the manual sign off, we decided there is a great need to route the entries to the right people and have them actually, hit an approve button once they've reviewed the time. And I'll show you a little sneak peek of that in a sec. And then similar to what we've done with the electronic signatures and the RFIs, we're also doing an electronic workflow for submittals. So your PMs will be able to request submittals from their subcontractors. Subcontractors will be able to upload documents and submit them. I'll just get into a little preview of what that looks like as well. So for time entry, this is what the approved timesheets will look like. This you'll notice here at the top, crews. This is a big deal because a lot of our clients have created a crew per employee, and previously would have to go through and select each crew and take a look at the employee hours. Here, you're going to see all of the employees listed regardless of their crew, and that should make for a way quicker preview of their time. It'll also allow you to edit their time here. So, if you've got somebody who entered 40 hours instead of 4 hours, you have the ability to alter and edit that before approving or rejecting. You'll also get like a nice summary of the employees' hours. You'll see an approval log. So if you've got a chain of people looking at it and you wanted to make sure that Bob looked at all these hours before you did, then you can take a look at the approval log to see the history. Also, you'll see here where any notes that are entered in the time entry will also show up here, so you could take a look and view those notes as well. And here is the submittal workflow form. So here you can see we've got Barham sent the request. These documents were submitted. It's moved on to the next person, and now that person can either reply or forward this request. And so this can also be sent to internal or external users, which we have been finding is extremely useful for a lot of our clients. So thank you again for taking the time out of your day to review these features. I hope that all of you really enjoyed them and that you'll put them all to great use. I will ask you one favor. I'm going to do my best to email out this webinar to you today. And I'm also going to attach a survey to that email. And I would really love if you could take a couple more minutes out of your day to respond to that survey. We really want your feedback. We want to make sure that you're enjoying these features and that you feel like you're being heard. And so I guess I will open it up to questions now. Let me just pull them up. Okay. Lots of questions here. Okay. How does it affect the cost plus billing? How does the revised AP invoice affect the billing report if it was already billed? So that's a great question. If you're revising an AP and you've already billed for it, then in the next application, you'll see two entries, one showing the reversal and one showing the new one. So if you need to include both in your billing to reverse out the old cost item and record the new one, then you can. If you just need to not bill because the net impact is 0, you can hit no for either, but you'll see two entries there. If the fiscal period is closed, I assume we can't revise. You can still revise if your fiscal period is closed. You just must change your transaction date to an open fiscal period. Let's see, some more. Are you able to revise an AP paid invoice that has been reconciled? So the answer is yes to this. We do unfortunately have a bug currently that we are working ferociously to fix. But for all intents and purposes, the way this was designed is yes, as long as the the payment has been reconciled, it should not affect whether or not you can revise, because we just take that payment and we move that over. When you revise an AP invoice, will it keep the original invoice date or will it automatically revert to the current date? So it'll keep the original invoice date unless you change it. Is the revise and resubmit button only for subcontracts and change orders, or does it apply to subcontract pay apps as well? So it is only for subcontracts and change orders. We actually have a revise and resubmit already included within the subcontractor pay apps. So how that works is, you know, a subcontractor is going to submit their invoice. Let's say they're invoicing for $10,000. If the project manager is reviewing this and says, no, it should only be 5, then we give the PM the opportunity to actually alter the amount of that invoice, and then we send it back as approved with modification. And when we do that, an email is automatically sent back to the subcontractor saying that it was approved with modification. Please resubmit the invoice with this amount. So it's already embedded within that feature, but if you've got any questions on how that works or need some more clarification, please email us at help@jonaspremier.com, and we'll be happy to answer your question and kind of show you a bit more of how that works. If you revise anything with an AP invoice, it will create a new invoice with a revision, or only if the revision affects the distribution. So yes, as long as you're hitting revise AP, and if you hit post, whether or not you only changed the memo or you changed the distribution and the amount, you will see the original invoice number with the dash REV1. Or if you revised it twice, it'll say REV2, et cetera, et cetera. Can you send out the recording of the OData webinar? Yes, I will. I will include the website that has all of our webinars, including the recordings of those webinars, with the email that I send out with this particular recording. If someone approves as a delegate, is it noted in the approval log that they are a delegate? So the approval log will show that who's approved it. Won't necessarily indicate that it's a delegate. It will just say, you know, approved by John, not approved by Aisha. Does it provide a summary of the posting to job and GL when you post the revised AP? So what it does in the background is it reverses the original AP invoice and creates a new one on your behalf. But what we do is we hide that noise. So when you pull up, let's say, a job cost report, you're not going to see the in and out. You're just going to see the result of the new AP invoice. I've noticed delays in the software since the update. Are these being looked at? So we did have some reports of delays initially. Those have been addressed and fixed. So if you are still seeing delays, please email us as soon as possible and we'll get it looked after for you. Can we lock revisions? So you can't lock revisions, but you can restrict access to the revised AP, or you can restrict the ability to post. So if somebody does do a revision, they must send it through the workflow approval process. Can you change the date that the revision is posted? It is automatically posted today's date, but we sometimes might want to backdate. Yes, absolutely. So we don't lock any of the dates. Once you hit revise, everything, including the transaction date, is editable. So you have the ability to mark that as any date that you want. Unless there's a payment. If there's a payment, I do not believe it will let you change the transaction date to prior to the payment date. So for example, if you had a payment of May 5th, you can't change the transaction date to May 1st because you would have a payment before an invoice. So as long as that lines up, you shouldn't have a problem. What does the approval log show? So good question. The approval log shows you all the details of who's already looked at the document before you, shows you any notes, basically shows you everyone who's touched it. Can I choose PO if I'm revising? Yes, that's the best part. So if you've forgotten to choose either a subcontract or a PO when recording your initial AP invoice, upon revising, you can select a new PO or you can select the correct one or just any PO or subcontract if you had forgotten to do so. I noticed the change distribution button is gone, so now need to use the revise button to accomplish that instead. Correct. So we did take away the change distribution. It's funny because we had an internal debate on whether or not we should do this, but we decided to take it away because we thought it wasn't as user-friendly as the revise AP function. So the change distribution did allow you to just change that line, but it didn't allow you to add more lines if you need to or alter the amount. So we thought, it's just easier to do the revise AP. So we replaced it. When will the automatic bank when is the automatic bank reconciliation coming? So it's a really good question. It's a really big project that we're undertaking. We are still working on it. It's just, it's a beast. So it's taking a bit longer. As you can imagine, there are hundreds and hundreds of banks in the US, and plus we've got quite a few in Canada. So the ability to get all of that banking stuff in here is challenging. But we are working on it. We've not forgotten about it. Is there an option to remove subtotal from the progress report? There is no option currently to remove a subtotal. You can always export to Excel, but we have a number of job cost progress reports available. I would suggest going through them all and kind of figuring out which one works best for your company. Awesome. I think that's all of them. If there are any questions that I missed, I do apologize. Please feel free to email us at help@jonaspremier.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Also, if you require any assistance on any of these features and have more questions on how they work, please email us and we will be more than happy to help you through them. Thank you again. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe.